Welcome back to Third Eye on the Prize. Look, it's pretty clear there is a lot of what Eckhart Tolle calls turbulent energies flying around right now. You see it if you watch or read the news. You see it all over social media. And if you're sensitive, you may even feel it just going out to places where other people congregate, even shopping or at the gym or doing routine things. We all want to connect. We don't want to be isolated. But we also need to learn the skill of disconnecting when needed in order to be healthy, safe, and happy. And that applies to what's going on inside our own minds, as well as to external events and what's in our inbox. We want to let in the good and let out the bad, or keep out what's harmful. Whether we're keeping something out by blocking it or letting it out by releasing it depends on the situation. Another way to think about this is what I call the intelligence of the membrane. Each and every cell in your body has a membrane, a semi-permeable barrier, not a solid wall, not an open net, but something that has a dual job to allow what is nourishing to come in and enable that which needs to be removed or released to get out. Because when it's not released, it causes trouble, diseases, and other problems. There's a lot of intelligence in that membrane to be able to do all that. So we're using this membrane as a metaphor for the intelligence we have to know what to allow in and what to keep out, or allow to be released. This extends to everything in our lives, because we are energetic beings. We are energy. And as energetic entities, we're also part of a vast field of energy. So knowing when and how to connect and disconnect is a high-level, valuable skill. Connecting to nourishing energy that supports and sustains, and disconnecting from toxic, harmful energy. You already have this capability. It's built in, like the cell membrane. The trouble is the crazy ego part of our mind derails that organic ability. But that's a topic for another episode. Okay, but what about the negative energies we inherit? The ones we're born with? They're just in there. It's often multi-generational stuff, family patterns. Some might use the term baggage. Pema Chödrön, a wonderful spiritual teacher, calls these propensities, our tendencies or bad habits, things that keep popping up and repeatedly trip us up over and over again. We wish they weren't there, but there they are. Something acts as a trigger and it comes right out. Eckhart calls this the pain body. These behavioral patterns or ways of reacting to situations that feel like a broken record. Now, if you're not old enough to remember LPs before everything went digital, search it up or ask someone who is. But sometimes the album would get a scratch and then it would skip. The needle would get stuck in one of those little grooves in the vinyl surface, and it would just keep playing the same thing over and over again. So these patterns that keep repeating, even though we don't want them to, are like a broken record. Now, I have a personal example I want to share. Not easy to talk about, but I think it's useful when we talk about specific examples. I have 2 grown children. The younger was born very premature, with many challenges. During her birth or afterward, they don't really know. There may have been a deficit of oxygen to her brain, so she has some intellectual disability. It's fairly mild, but then later, around puberty, she was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. Not an easy thing to live with. She also has a condition called motor dyspraxia, which most people in this country have never even heard of. There seems to be more awareness of it in the UK. It's sometimes called a motor planning disorder. So complex, multi-step tasks are really challenging. Like what? Well, writing is an extremely complex, multi-step task. The planning and the coordination between the cognitive and the motor skills, there's a lot to it. It's complex. Another thing we may think is kind of automatic is toilet training. when this all goes according to plan, we don't think about it that much. If your kid goes smoothly through the stages, like my firstborn did, from diapers to pull-ups to the little potty seat, you may not realize how much there is to it. First, I have to sense when it's time to go. Which one? Is it pee or poop? And then, where's the nearest bathroom? If I'm in school, I have to let the teacher know. And then when I do get to a bathroom, there's all this clothing to navigate. Snaps, zippers, buttons. There's a lot to it. It's not a simple automatic thing. It is for animals. They just lift up a leg or squat. Human affairs are complicated. So my daughter was given a lot to deal with. But I firmly believe that people who are given a lot of challenges also have a big job to do. My daughter's very spiritual. She has a lot of wisdom. And she's very funny. Now, being funny on purpose is a sign of intelligence. But she also has a temper, and so do I. When I was a kid, I did things like kick out a window with my foot. I could get an intense anger thing happening. It was just in me. After many years of spiritual practice and therapy, I've learned to control it. Does that mean it never comes up? No, it doesn't mean that. I'm sure it's some part of my karmic inheritance. My grandmother beat my mother when she was a young child. But later in life, she was a sweet grandma. You'd never believe it. How could this person have had such a blind rage in her? But she did. Who knows how far back in the lineage that went? There's no way to know, but it feels like far back, probably. When my daughter was very young, I had a flash of insight about this. It happened at night. And it was terrifying because it felt almost like a lightning bolt. Like a powerful energy had passed through my grandmother, to my mother, to me, to my daughter. And there was nothing I could have done to stop it. And like a lightning bolt coming from a cloud, finding its way into the ground, I felt the force and also the inevitability of it. I'm grateful to have had that insight. I know it came through my intuition. It had that strong ring of truth to it. And in the time since, it has helped me feel more compassion for all of us, not just myself, not just my immediate family members, everyone. We are all deeply connected, both through our beauty and through our pain. My grandmother and mother are no longer alive. They've moved on to other forms. But my daughter and I try our best to love each other and ourselves, especially when we stumble and falter. So why is it so important to feel these difficult emotions fully? Anger that's so extreme, we have to call it rage. Fear that's so strong, we have to call it terror. It's a very interesting question, isn't it? Some of us grew up in families where there was a huge amount of drama, stuff flying around all the time. For others, it was pushed down, kept out of sight. The message there was, keep it to yourself. We don't talk about that. But neither one of those approaches works. If we bury or push away the feelings, they'll just come back, usually even stronger. And if we engage with the negative energy, we feed it, which gives it the fuel to keep going and grow. This is how escalation happens. And if it's in a big crowd or a mob, it can turn deadly. Tragic things can happen, like stampedes and ultimately wars. So this work of feeling but not feeding, it's called spiritual warrior work, because that's what's needed. But it's not easy, walking on that tightrope. It takes a lot of presence and humility, because we come up short a lot of the time. But the important thing is just do a little better each time. If I feel more and feed less, even a tiny bit, I'm going in the right direction. All we can do is keep trying and be vigilant and compassionate towards self and others, and have faith that as we do this practice, the grace of God is such that over time, the poison gets diluted while the awareness gets stronger. The only way to break the patterns is through awareness and consciousness. Thanks so much for listening. I want this to be a space where spirituality meets real life. It would help me tremendously to know what kinds of support would best serve your needs. Please visit thirdeyeontheprize.com/join me and let me know. Until next time, keep your third eye on the prize and remember, truth is beyond belief.